key. Believe in yourself. Happiness. Falling that I want. Happiness. All that I need. Happiness. All that I want. Happiness. All that I need.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to Out of My Zone podcast. I do want to say I have a very special guest tonight with me. Um, I initially had seen him on TikTok through mutual friends, and whenever I seen the live, I really was interested. And he has a story to tell, and he's an author. He's The Ember is actually a really great read. I have not read it fully myself, but I did go through some of the things on it. Um, and without further ado, let's bring him up. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm
It's
good. How
so
are
good
you?
to have you. I'm great. So I initially I had mentioned just a moment ago that you're an author and that you've not written just one, but you've written two. I know that you had mentioned the other day, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the more prominent one that's out now is The Ember. Could you go over that a little bit with us?
Well, The Ember is it's actually the second book. The previous book was called Conversations with Ghosts, but The Ember is about where I'm at right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
a poetry and prose book about hope. I suppose different sides of hope in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like most of my writing, it's a bit of a diary entry, but it's also meant to resonate with the audience and um, be written in such a way that almost everybody can get something from it. So
Mm-hmm.
I find that hope is one of those things that I'm fascinated by. The fact that you can be up against just the hardest things in life and, you could be just absolutely at your wit's end and the thing that keeps you going is that hope, that faith, that whatever. But in my mind, I see the ember as this little ember that rests inside of you that it's the last thing to go out in your life. So, uh I've always looked at it as the thing that keeps pushing me through the really hard times. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just thought I would dedicate a book specifically to that because I think the ember is a very good concept, and I think it's something I definitely needed to share with people.
Absolutely. And I really feel like it's going to resonate with a lot of people exactly on that exact concept that you were just saying. Because a lot of times, whenever you are going through something and you just feel broken, my similarity to is like a piece of stained glass. You know what I mean? Even
Yep,
us on the screen, and I've mentioned it even on like my TikTok platform as well. The boxes are not connecting. You know what I mean? So just like a
yep,
piece of stained glass, when it breaks, it's beautiful. It's got all colors and you can see the picture through it. But even when it breaks and you put it back together, it may not go back together evenly, right? But whenever
yep.
that sunlight and that light shines through, you're still going to see a beautiful picture no matter
As
what.
long
And
as
that's
you're looking for it, right? Like
right, exactly.
the problem is like you could have a beautiful thing right in front of you, and if you're not looking for the gratitude, if you're not looking to appreciate it, then that beautiful thing really it's not like stained glass. It's not something that you think is
Mhm.
beautiful. You're just taking it for granted. And I think
Yeah.
to go with that saying that when something smashes, so the idea is that when something bad happens in your life, you have to look for the lessons. I find
Mm,
like it's not just about saying this bad thing happened to me and then, "Oh, I have to get over it." It's like once you learn the lesson and whatever the bad thing is that's happening, you just grow as a person, right?
mhm,
So, I don't necessarily look at bad things happening as the end of the world or even like a bad thing for me. It just means that, like, there's a lesson to be learned, and I should probably
mhm.
focus on that.
Right, hone in on it, and I think too, a lot of times when you're going through certain things in life, um, you're not really looking at that picture or the aspect in that way. You're just like, "Why is it happening to me? Why is life
Yeah.
doing this to me right now?" You know what I mean? You're just
I
beating
I I
yourself
think
up, basically.
yeah, like, I think it's easy, like, maybe early on in life, you say why a lot more, "Why
Mhm.
is this happening?" But I think, like, as you get older and you kind of realize that everyone has things happening to them, you stop asking yourself why.
Why? Yep.
It's I no longer question why bad things happen. I just go like, "Okay,
Mm,
well, that's part of my journey," right? And part of
exactly.
going through life is not necessarily understanding why we're here or understanding, your own personal purpose. I mean, I think there's something to be said about the journey and trying to like find that out for yourself, whatever that means.
Mhm.
And when bad things happen, sometimes we are lucky enough to say, well, this happened because of that. But other times we just have to accept it as we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or it's just some more character building that we need to go through.
Right, exactly. I know for me, growing and learning all of these different traumas that had, happened in my life, not realizing, I need to do A, B, and C, right? And really go through that storm. And you just kind of stay there sometimes, right? And you're just stuck and you're not knowing the next step or the next step. So I really think this book, right, that you have written, there's poetry in there, and there's other stories in there, correct?
Prose, I would say like prose would be like where poetry is more abstract. It's
Hmm.
kind of like if you read something, you have to guess at what I'm trying to say. And prose is a bit more like a flowery way of saying something straight to somebody, right? So,
Right. I love that statement, by the way.
oh,
I've
thanks.
I've not heard I have not heard it said like that. But yeah, I
Yeah, it's
mean,
just how I look at it.
kind of direct, but in
Well, it's
a
yeah, it's indirectly saying something. It's like
mhm,
there's so many exciting ways to like say stuff, and
mhm,
writing is like painting to me. And it's one of those things where, I'm learning more and more the beauty of abstract, and
mhm,
writing is something where like for the longest time I was like, I'm not gonna write poetry or prose. I'm gonna focus on this sort of book. And then the freedom that comes from just being able to like pour your soul out like onto the page is there's nothing like that. And I think poetry and prose offers a window to just have fun, to just go with whatever your emotion is. And I think that's what I like the most about poetry and prose is just the freedom of it. And the Ember
right,
is was a really cool way to find a ton of different ways to bring up like different versions of hope and different versions of feeling a loss of hope, because I definitely want to make it clear for anybody who's thinking about reading the book, it's not like a sunshiny adventure. Like I don't go through life like everything's positive all the time, and like your best life is like every day, and it's like you know I
mhm,
have thoughts like everyone else, like dark thoughts.
yeah,
And not every day I wake up feeling like things are clear skies. There's a lot of dark clouds, obviously, and that shows in the book. So
right,
I've gone through quite a bit, over the years, like everyone else, and in all that time, I just kind of keep like reflecting back on certain things, like the passing of my brother and stuff, and
mhm,
that's in the book as well. So,
right. What, I know that you are saying a lot of things that you reflected on, and what was one main thing that really helped you in your journey on creating a really beautiful piece of poetry, poetry, as you would say? What would be one thing that really connected you to writing this book?
um, I'm in a better place now emotionally. I
Mhm,
wasn't in the best place for a while, and then I had some you know, amazing changes in my life, and I met somebody amazing, and she's has a lot of faith, and it awakened me up to a lot of things that I think I haven't been able to talk to people about, because I'm not necessarily surrounded by a lot of people who want to talk about faith in any way. So I tend to kind of keep that to myself, or I find very selective few people to voice that with.
mhm,
And this particular person allowed me to have those deeper conversations, and allowed me to see a bigger picture of like I guess the abstract way to look
mhm,
at life, and also about setting boundaries and stuff. And all through that just kind of awakened me to this idea of now's the right time to write a book about hope, because I am feeling very hopeful. I'm feeling
right,
very very hopeful, very grateful. And I know that in today's world that seems really crazy, because everyone seems to give off the view that the whole world's falling apart, and no one's happy, and I don't really believe that. I think a lot of
mhm,
people are actually doing pretty good. Maybe they're stressed and stuff, but I think for the most part, we all have something to be grateful and hopeful for. And once again, the Ember was just my way of saying, okay, now's the right time to share my hope And even in dark times, I think it's even more important to share whatever gratitude I have, because if my book, and it has, I've had some really great feedback from people who are going through really hard times. Like, I had one mom whose son is fighting cancer, and my book has given her more hope than the doctors have. And
Oh, wow.
that was a pretty powerful thing to hear. And, then I just found out that a man bought his wife, who has stage 4 cancer, bought her the book to read her because she read a couple passages out of it and she loved it. And I think that's amazing. So if I never sell a book ever again, I've already done what I wanted to do, which was know that I connected with people. But if you're watching, you want to buy it, hey, I'm happy with that too. you know.
Right. No, of course. I mean, that's the whole point of it is being able to put your heart into something and then it resonate with one person, let alone thousands of people. And that's what I always say too with anything that I may be, diving into or wanting to create this purposeful change and letting other people's light shine if they feel like it's dimmed. But
Mhm.
that does give them hope. You know what I mean? And I do agree with you. I do believe that a lot of people feel like maybe the world is just crumbling and there's a lot of chaos. There really is, but it's kind of like a domino effect. Whenever you have one person doing this, right? And then that's that hope, right, that they didn't think that they needed. It's kind of like a domino effect, right? So like you have written this beautiful piece and
Thank you.
someone is resonating with it. I do want to buy the book myself, so that's one person that's going to get it because I do want to read it.
Yes.
I have seen some of your stuff on your TikTok page, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But um, it's like a domino effect. So you're creating this positive change right here for hope for people who are just feeling broken and their faith is shattered, right, because of
Mhm.
whatever they may be going through, and then they go to the next stage. There's a safe space or there's a group of people who are empowering and uplifting and saying those real positive affirmations that maybe they're not knowing that they can do themselves but just need a little uplift. That's that positive change that the world needs, and I am seeing a lot of that.
Yes, and I think there's also something to be said about whether you're sharing a negative emotion or whether you're sharing a positive emotion. I see them as both being beneficial, as long as they're
Right.
done authentically, right? Like, if
Hmm.
your purpose is to share your pain with people because you want other people to feel pain with you, I think then obviously that's a negative thing, and I don't think you should
Hmm.
really do that. I feel like if you're gonna share going through a negative part in your life, then you should do it in an authentic way that gives a certain amount of hope, you know? Like, I'll tell you a
Hmm.
little story if we have time. Um,
Yeah, we have lots
when
of
I was
time.
younger, I think I was only, I don't know, I was probably like 19 or something, and I was at this coffee shop here. It was called Weeds Cafe, just this little artsy coffee shop. And I was sitting at a table and I was just reading this book, and this lady came up to me, and it was just one of those like old artsy coffee shops where people would talk to you, not like Starbucks
Hmm.
where people don't talk to each other. But
Yeah.
um this lady came up to me. She said, "Can I sit down and talk with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." She sat down to talk to me. She said, "Listen," she goes, "I just felt like I had to tell you something." She says, "You strike me as somebody that people will follow into the darkness. And you are somebody who can go into a dark place and come out of the dark place without a big problem. You can go in and out of that place really easy." She goes, "But the problem is the people who follow you can't necessarily get out of the darkness as fast as you can or as healthy
Mhm.
as you can. So you need to make sure that you lead them out of the darkness as well." And it actually emotionally changed me, because then I realized that kind of I have a duty as a person, but also as an artist, to I can be as dark and heavy as I want. I can talk about real intense things if I need to, but overall, I have to make sure that I bring people out to the light, so that I'm not leaving them in this dark place. So in my life, my purpose is any artwork that I do, I really want to make sure that I'm leading people into the light again, so that they can at least think about, having a conversation with God, or um, just having a bit more faith, or having a bit more optimism at the end of the day, right? So
Right.
I think that's a really important thing for me to do.
Right. That's actually a really beautiful thing, to be honest, because we need more people. We really need more. It's kind of like a warrior or creating a village of people who want to create that meaningful
Yep.
change. You know what I mean? It doesn't take one person. It's going to take multiple people. And I've said this before, Ryan. You can have thousands of safe spaces. You can have millions of beautiful books written. You can have, I don't know, lots and lots of different groups of people, right? Walks of life, whatever it may be, right? And 20 of them people can go to one place and not one of them resonate. And then,
Yep.
you know what I mean? You're not going to have, basically what I'm saying, it's better to have thousands of open outlets, including books, music, actually, opera, poetry, whatever it may be that they're connected with, to be able to go to. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing more and more and more of this every single day. And I'm seeing lots of people resonate, and it's so beautiful to see. I had
Yeah.
a,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, well, I was just saying, I had a girl had reached out to me. Actually, it was today, and she sent a video, and I didn't watch it right off the bat because I was at work, but she's a real advocate for mental health and self-healing and self-reflection and being there, being a safe space for men and women, anybody who may need it, right? And she's really a beautiful person. And she went through her own trials and tribulations, and she's healing as she's going through it still. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
In fact, that's
um
probably how she heals through it, right? It's
right.
like helping people
Yeah.
is the act of helping people is going to help her. Like people, like a lot of people tend to think that you can't really teach people stuff when you're in the middle of learning. And
Ah.
the interesting thing is like you could be just healing and
Mhm.
kind of halfway through the journey and then you're like, "Okay, I think I can talk to somebody about this." And then as you're talking to them, they're healing and you're healing, and then by the time you're done,
Yeah.
they're like, "This person really helped me," but the truth is they helped you as well, right?
Right, absolutely, 100%. That's exactly where I was going with that. You could not have said that any better. Um, but she was at the brink, you know, and she said they almost won. I almost decided to shut everything down, but because she's built a community of people, exactly what you just said, are really helping her heal too, same as myself, you know what I mean? As whenever I'm being a safe space for someone or however it may be, they're helping me too, just as much as me helping them. It's so important. And because she had that uplift when she was in a down moment, she wrote to me and she said, they almost won, but we're all warriors and we all go through things. And I'm so glad that I had this community behind me, uplifting me because they probably would have won. You know what I mean? The
Yep,
doubters and the
yep,
ones that are seeing you do this change and really criticizing and not understanding it just yet,
yes.
because they're not ready. But she's such a beautiful person and exactly what you just said, healing through it by helping other people, whether, it's your beautiful book that you've written, um, or just communicating on social media and turning it into purposeful media,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
that's something where I really try to focus on that, like, I'm like a world-class introvert, like, I like to create behind the scenes, like, I'm not a huge
Mhm.
in front of the camera person, I'm more of a behind the camera person, but I do understand that in order to get your message across, you have to be extroverted about it. You're not gonna reach the world if you're not going out there to show people who you are and talk to them, right? And the fact is, you could have a nice cover of a book, which I do, have an amazing cover done by, Letta Taylor of Spaces of Arcadia. Um,
I was going
she's
to ask you
awesome.
that. It's absolutely beautiful.
Y she
The
actually the
cover.
book itself is if you open the whole thing, it's one whole picture, and it's meant to
Oh,
be like an
wow.
ember in the darkness, and I really feel she captured that amazing. And she does my friend's covers of his books, and people always say she does an amazing job because she's bringing a very human, warm element to the covers, which
Mhm.
especially now when a lot of people are moving on to AI because it's quick and it's cheap,
Yeah.
and I can tell an AI cover a mile away. And
Mm,
to see like a real piece of art on a cover, especially one that captures like the emotion you're trying to do, I could not have made a better cover than what she did. And I'm so grateful for that, you know.
mhm.
So yeah, I think it's a big deal that we work with real artists. I think it's a big deal that we try to create covers for our books that actually speak about what our book's about, you know? So
Right. It's absolutely beautiful. I've seen it. And I was gonna ask you did you make a video of her is it painting? Because I seen a video.
yeah, yes, that's a
Is that it?
yep. So she's actually the artist of my book, and she's also the artist of my friend's book. His name's Stuart Seeley. He's also a poet and prose guy, and he's does kind of transformational, motivational poetry and prose, but she's done
Mhm.
his books as well. So,
Oh,
um,
wow.
just great stuff. I mean, you know, as being an artist, like what you want is you want to find other like-minded people so that you guys can
Mhm.
create a bit of like this, I guess, community, you know, where I can't do everything. I'm not gonna write and edit and paint my book and all that. Like, there needs to be somebody
Mhm.
for each job for the most part. And I
Right. It
think
keeps
that when
it
you're doing everything by yourself, you're almost too close to the painting all the time and you can't see it for what it is. So, definitely before the world sees my book or reads my book, it's I definitely have to run it past a few people to say, like, is this good at all? So,
right. And it's just, that good constructive criticism, and it can help you, balance out what you're doing and where your vision is at, you know what I mean? It's good to have a team. It's good to have those constructive criticisms on anything, I feel like that you do in life in
I mean,
general.
people online are afraid of not being perfect. 'Cause everyone, like, you know,
Ah,
like, you look at, say, someone like Mr. Beast, this guy's putting millions of dollars into his videos. He doesn't even touch his videos necessarily. He's got a professional team who puts it together, and how's the average person supposed to put together a video that's even close to that? So people end up just going, "I'm just not gonna do it. Until I can
yeah,
solve how to make a video like a millionaire, I'm not gonna do a video." And I think that we're entering into a time now where authenticity and real human videos and stuff are actually gonna become way more attractive to people than these highly polished Hollywood looking videos that people are they're just gonna see it all the time because of AI. AI is
yeah,
gonna make a very polished, perfect video, and it's gonna
mhm,
strip the humanity right out of it. So, I
yeah,
think it's important just if you have a old crappy phone and a regular mic, just record and just give it to the world, you know, the real
I
way.
love that. I really do because it's not just recent. I can remember when I was younger, and this is just my opinion, you know what I mean? This is solely my opinion on how I felt during that time when I was growing up. You have magazines of what you are expected to look like or how you're expected to have your hair, or you know what I mean? And that's where a lot of childhood trauma comes in from. It stems from bullying, and then to not feeling like you're perfect, like what you see on TV or what you see in a magazine. And then it's kind of evolved into this whole AI thing where they can create different eye color or make your nose smaller, or and you know what I mean? And people
Mhm.
look at you in real life and it's like, well, you look way different. And it's
Yeah,
because of all of these little things that they can move around from, a computer, or a
yeah.
phone and make you look different.
But that's
And it
also like
does.
that's something where there's gonna be 2 schools of people who use AI, right? There's gonna be those who use it for knowledge, and I think that's great. I think AI is a great way to get knowledge really fast. Like, you can go to ChatGPT and ask it for, "Hey, can you give me 10 tips like this?" And it will give that to you, whereas if you go to
Right.
Google, it'll give you, you know, an article, and then you gotta read
Mhm.
through the article and get it. So it's just a different experience, but for
Yeah.
people who are using AI to do the work that they should be able to do on their own, but they're just not doing it because they're lazy, like,
Mm.
those are the people who are gonna suffer. Like, if you're gonna use AI to, put on your makeup, I mean, you're already failing at that point, I'm just saying. I think, like, you need to, like you're probably the last person who should, like, be using AI if that's what you're using it for, and I can only
Yeah.
imagine the broken self-esteems of these beauty models who use filters, and they've built their entire community around their beautiful face that they know isn't their own. And
Right.
I can only imagine what they feel like when they shut off the camera and they look at themselves in the mirror and go, "Wow, I my nose is rounder than I make it look, and,
Right.
my face is rounder," and it's just I don't know, it's sad. I think people just need to be okay with their different shapes and sizes and stop trying to fight, you know, uh, I guess
Fit.
just being unique, just being whatever makes you you, right?
Right, absolutely. And that's where it comes with that self-love and self-reflection, you know what I mean? Where you can look in the mirror and you can say, "This is me. I'm beautifully and perfectly made," however you want to say it, but for you to believe it. And then the next process, like the next steps can happen. You can, growth, expand, live your dreams, do what you want to do, and you're not so hard on yourself. People really are hard on themselves, and I'm one of them too at certain times. But
Of course.
whenever you whenever you go through a lot of those storms and challenges, number one being fitting in society's version of how you should be, and I will always say this until the rest of the time that I'm here on this earth, is you do not have to fit any you don't have to bend or change or do anything different other than be you to fit someone else's version of how you should be. Because I did that for way too long, and it's just exhausting. And it takes triple, if not double, double, double time to get back to who you are. You know what
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean?
You can waste
It
a
takes
long
so
time.
long. Yeah. Just trying to fit how someone else thinks you should be. And I lived that for so long.
Well,
And I know
it's
a lot of
funny.
other people do.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things is, like, in a world where there's no well, just say in a universe where there's no duplicates, we're all trying to be unique. It's such a weird
Mm.
concept to me that you're the only version of you on the planet that exists, on the universe that exists, or in the universe that exists, and yet you're still trying to find a way to have a voice that's higher than somebody else's or that's different enough. It's like, if you really look at somebody that you're talking to and you just take a moment to go, "This is the only version of this human." Like, this is they broke the mold on this one. Like, there's no person like this person in front of me. You'll start to realize that,
Mm.
like, everybody is absolutely perfect the way that they are. Like, you just
Right.
are. Now, if you're gonna
Yeah.
compare yourself, comparison is like the father of discontent. Like, if you wanna compare yourself to anything, you can ruin your day. Like,
Yeah.
you could literally just buy a car and be like, "Oh, this is the best car ever. I'm so happy about this." And then somebody drives the newer version of your car right in front of you 5 minutes later, and you're like, "Well, that's my car. That's the perfect car." Now your car
Yeah.
sucks, right?
Yeah. And it's just embedded from the time when you're young, childhood,
Yeah.
to not having the name brand shoes or the name brand clothes, or I wish we did this or I wish we did that. And it's really embedded from when you're young. You know what I mean? Now this is just my opinion. You know what I mean? I think allowing that self awareness for kids and letting them figure out who they are on their own versus letting you tell them how they are or how it should be. Let them figure it out, and you just guide them because we're really just tools anyway at
Yeah,
the
I
end
know
of
what you're
it.
I know what you're saying here without us
Mhm,
getting, canceled for saying things. I totally
mhm,
get where you're coming from, and that is that we do have to let people discover. We have to stop trying to protect everybody from everything at every single
right,
age. Like,
yeah,
kids used to climb trees, and now,
mhm,
like, we're like, "Don't climb the tree, here's a phone." And it's like, well, you just opened your child up to something way worse than falling from a tree, but,
yeah,
that's the world that we live in now. It's much easier to
mhm,
throw kids on technology, and then it's much
mhm,
easier to tell kids who they are instead of just saying, "Hey," like, when you're, say, 15 or 16 or going through puberty, whatever age that is, um, you're gonna be confused. So,
mhm,
naturally, the answer isn't to say, "Well, you're confused, let me answer that for you." The
yeah,
answer is to say, "Well, let's work through this period of growth, and
mhm,
let's see what you're feeling like on the other side of it, and
mhm,
then let's have a discussion when you're more of an adult, not when
mhm,
you're a child who needs to actually have serious parenting, So
Mhm.
I'm sure I lost a part of the audience on that one, but whatever. You gotta
Nope,
choose
I
your side.
followed you. I followed you, it's fine. But it's true, you know what I mean? I think, a lot of times in life, it's very robotic, and it starts at a very young age. And if we could just, one, bring more love and kindness into it, and not being so pinpoint on certain things. And I get it. It's like the time before me and the time before my mom and the time before my grandma. I get those things are already
Mhm.
there. But I remember playing around outside and coming in whenever it's dinner time, and not
Yeah.
so much social media, and not so, you know what I mean? A lot of those things. But now the times have changed, right? So we're having to pick up slack in certain areas, right? So I just think if you just be yourself and you really know who you are and you're okay with that, nothing else matters. You don't have to fit the mold,
Yeah, and
you
we have to
know?
remind each other that, like, or remind everybody that, you know, this is supposed to be a journey without everyone's opinions. And the thing is like I'm 45, so I'm old enough that can go back to a time where not everyone had a cell phone. Nobody had a cell phone, and
Mhm.
the internet wasn't what it is now. Social media
Right.
wasn't a thing. So like your friendship connections were real connections. Like,
Mhm.
as I was getting older, it would be like I could be sitting at a table with like 5 friends talking about, whatever, and then instantly someone would go, "Hey, let's go to our places and hop online and let's play a game together." And what was so weird to me was this concept of we were just hanging out in real life together. Like, we
Mhm.
were actually, like, hanging out, and then we just decided, "Let's all go to our separate houses and let's hang out digitally." And I felt like that's how backwards things are getting, right? So
Right.
I wanna get back to the human connections with people, which I know
Exactly.
it can be difficult because I think the internet has a real easy way of making people more cynical.
Mhm.
It's very easy to get cynical online because you're constantly seeing negative feedback all the time for everything, right? And BuzzFeed culture is so powerful. Like, these marketing companies know that if they tell you something good happened, you're probably gonna be like, "Well, that's cool." But if you say that, this bad thing happens or this accident happens, or I heard someone once say that, marketing online, you're up against naked women in car crashes. And it's like, so if you can't make anything that's more exciting than that with marketing, you're gonna fail, was kinda what the guy was saying. And I thought that was,
Right.
whether that's true or not, it kinda feels that way. Like, you're up against kind of
Yeah.
either a ton of pornographic imagery, or you're, like, up against, like, car crashes and real terrible events that naturally you stop and go, "Where'd they drop this bomb?" And
Mhm.
the internet has a way of, say, going back to that coffee shop thing, like, when you're sitting at a table, having coffee with people, it's your friends that you're sitting at a table with, right? It's people
Yeah.
that are
Mhm.
like-minded, you respect them, they respect you. Most cases, you'd probably take a bullet for each other. I mean, that's how tight that coffee shop connection is with your friends.
Mhm.
The problem is with the internet, you can't decide who's coming to your table. It's people of different backgrounds, people of different faiths, people of different beliefs in everything, of different age groups. And then you're throwing all these people together and you're saying, try to not fight. That is like
Yeah.
impossible.
Right. Yeah.
So the trick isn't to,
Throwing
the
them in the
trick is
den of
just to understand you're not going to be liked by everybody. And you
no.
shouldn't even try to be liked by everybody. You should just navigate the internet in such a way, just like you navigate your life, where you
Mhm.
curate your friends. You let the good ones in, and you don't acknowledge the ones who are trying to bother you, and that's pretty much
Right.
that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I was talking earlier, um, on live, and I'm just like, not everyone is going to be for you, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
Nope.
and setting those healthy boundaries is so important, especially with social media now. Those healthy boundaries are so important in setting. And I know my growth is so important to me. And Ryan, let me just tell you, setting boundaries wasn't always easy for me. You know what I mean? Because
It wasn't easy
it
for me, I assure you
it
about
it
it.
it just wasn't. It's like, okay, I'm gonna set this boundary and I'm sticking to it and nothing's gonna budge it. And then something would creep in. It'd be like, okay, and then like a little piece would break off, right? And then, okay, and then another piece would break off. And then before I know it, that whole barrier was down to the ground. And it was just not a firm foundation. Now I'm more empowered, and because I'm healing through this process of everything, you know what I mean? Just everything, stresses and lifting that off of my shoulders really and truthfully and just separating that, like, I'm giving myself some me time right now, and I do meditation now, and
Mhm.
it's helped me so, so incredibly much in my walk and my spiritual walk and my journey and my life. Just giving that time to me and everything else to the side, it really has helped me, and I'm able to set more stronger, firm foundations because of that.
Absolutely. Like growing up, I always moved a lot. Like we moved a ton. My mom actually recently gave me a box of my report cards, and there must have been 26 report cards in there. Like we moved a ton. And I remember that each time I'd make friends, it was like 3 months later, it'd be like I'd have to move. And when you're a
Mhm.
kid, even if you move 2 blocks away, it's like way too far to see your friend
Right.
again, right? So
Mhm.
I developed this like real fierce attitude about you're not gonna take these people away from me. And the problem is that made it so that I wouldn't let people leave my life either. Even if they were the wrong people, I'd make excuse. I'd be like, this is just how he is. He's just like he's got that attitude, but he's totally a nice guy.
Mhm.
And the people who care about me are like, he's not a nice guy though. He actually doesn't like you. He said you shouldn't write your book. In fact, he feels terrible that he even told you that you should write your book. I mean, this guy that I originally
Wow.
started the dream of writing with because we were buddies and we're like, "Hey man, we're 15 years old and we're like, let's get our books in chapters." And we
Mhm.
never did. Like he read a
Yeah.
ton of books and we wrote and stuff like that. And he was always better than me for sure. He was just
Mm.
better because he had such a knowledge base, right? He'd devour like 3 books a week. But anyway, we had this dream, and then all of a sudden I get published. Here I am, it was in my 30s, and I got published, and he wrote me like a 3-page thing of like why I should not have been writing, how I should have been a plumber or an electrician, and how he's going to forever feel guilty that he never told me to stop writing. And
Mhm.
um and that was somebody that I actually made a lot of excuses for. I don't know why, but I just kept going, "Okay, you know what? You're just jealous. You're just whatever." And then it was like I thought on it for a bit and I was like, "No, no, I can't have that in my life." So, I really like over the last few years I've been really setting boundaries as
Yeah.
often as I can, and it hasn't made people happy. And it hasn't been negative in every case. Is like I haven't
Mhm.
been setting boundaries with people because I don't like them or
Mhm.
like I wish them ill. It's just that, as your life changes, new people come into your life, old people have to
Mhm.
go.
Right.
There's no room to bring old characters into a new story, as my friend
Mhm.
Stuart would say. And yeah, I really believe that. So yeah, setting boundaries, as you're saying, was super difficult. But the right people, sorry, I'm talking a lot here, but the
No, no,
one
this
one
is this
one thing
is
I
for
do a lot
you.
is I offer my opinion a ton. I'm bad with that. Like I'm like a certified, empowerment coach, but you're not really
Mhm.
supposed to give people all the answers. You're supposed to kind of just walk them towards their own answer, right?
Right.
But I always get ahead of myself and end up going, well, actually, this is what I think. And anyway, long story short, you get somebody in your life who tells you what they think. And not a lot of my friends do that with me. They kind of just let me do my thing. But sometimes
Mhm.
you get somebody who comes into your life and they just challenge you and they just say, you have terrible boundaries and you need to fix this shit. And that happened to me. So I really started waking up and going like, okay, and started doing the emotional work and realizing this person is totally right. And this person is giving me such healthy advice. And I think I'm ready
Yeah.
to hear that healthy advice. And that's where I'm at
Mhm.
now. So just a better space.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. I had a few people tell me kinda, not in that light, but I've had a few people tell me, in the same kinda category of what you're talking about setting healthy boundaries, but, very patient. You have to have patience too with someone who is fragile in a sense, you know what I mean? Especially with their growth and their healing.
Yeah.
And you want to have those people around you because it's healthy relationships, you know what I mean? I was saying something the other day that if you have people in your life, a lot of times the ones that are meant for you, they're going to gravitate towards you. They
Yep.
just are. And then if you have the ones that are in your life and all you feel is something being taken from you, right? And
Yep.
and you feel it, that's not healthy. You know what I mean? It's just not because it's going to be that forever. It's not going to change. Even if
Yes.
you are like, "Hey, that's really not cool." You know what I mean? Or, "Hey, I really don't like that you said this to me." And it's about, "Oh, okay, it's fine. It's okay." And blah blah blah. And then a week later, taking something else from you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a material thing. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it is emotional and mind, right? And
Yep.
that's being taken, is being broken down, and you're changing and you're bending. So
Yeah.
setting that boundary, right then and there, and keeping it set.
Well, think about
I,
it this way. Like, let's say you were surrounded by like your closest 10 friends were atheists, right? They didn't believe in anything. And this
Mhm,
was, whatever, 5 years ago, right? So nobody talks about God, nobody talks about faith. The world is devoid. Once you die, nothing exists, and this is and everything else is whatever, right? That's fine. But what happens if you connect with faith? If all of a sudden you feel there is something and the
mhm,
other 10 people you hang with are like telling you you can't go that direction, that you're going the wrong direction.
mhm.
So if you don't set a healthy boundary there, you're going to end
Right.
up with 10 friends who you're never going to be able to talk to on an honest level. And they're
Mhm.
also going to hold you back from fulfilling your journey. You know what I mean? Like, and
Right.
it's, you're not leaving them
Absolutely.
because you're being negative. You're leaving them
Mhm.
because you've grown a different
Right.
way. So I think people really have to understand that when you're setting boundaries, it's not about saying, I dislike you and I want
Yeah.
bad things to happen to you. It's not about being enemies. It's just about sometimes your outlook and your path is different. Maybe you don't want to waste time every single day and you want to start writing and publishing books and seeing how that goes. And you just got to
Right.
like, yeah, you just got to say
Absolutely.
goodbye to some people for a bit, right? And you
Right.
say, hey,
Yeah.
catch up by, you know, come hang with me. You wanna meditate, you wanna pray, you come hang with me. You wanna write a book,
Yeah.
meet me at the coffee shop. Oh,
Right.
you wanna just hang out and watch Game of Thrones again? I don't wanna do that, you know? So,
That's a great movie, though, by the way, our great series, just saying.
the last
I really love that whole
it
series, and I would
it was
watch it again. I need to watch it again, but exactly, we need to have more coffee shop conversations. I literally was
yes.
just thinking, what like, it would be so beautiful to have, coffee shop convos with Ryan, you know what I mean? That would be a really cool little ping in my ear, but, because it's true, we need to have more of those, so we need to be just raw and real, authentic, and not be so, like,
Stuffy.
devised, like division or biased or any of that, but there's a lot of it, and this is just my opinion, everybody. Um,
It's a real
but
opinion, though.
yeah,
It's
I
correct.
mean,
There's a lot of
there's
fake shit out there. There's a lot of people just
yeah,
worried about how they're looking to other people, like, "Am I cool enough? How's this angle?" You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, don't
you
worry about
you
it. Just
it's just the life is set up in such a strange way, like, the internet is hyper it's almost like hyper focused everything. It's made our it's put, like, our fears on just steroids now. Like, we have so
mhm,
much information that we shouldn't have. We shouldn't actually have information of stuff happening all over the world at every given moment, every terrible thing. Like, did you know that, 20, you know, Japanese soldiers just crossed the line over here? And it's like, dude, I don't even like know what I'm eating for dinner tonight. I don't need to know
right,
about every problem in the world that
exactly.
I can't even deal with, you know? Like,
Yeah, only my
just
grandmother said it best, Ryan, and I absolutely love this statement, and I will take this with me for the rest of my life. She told me in any bad situation, she would say, "Baby girl, Only fix what you can physically fix right now. Everything else, let it go.
Yep.
Only fix what you can physically fix. Everything else, forget about it. Because you're going to be going through all of it at one time. It's going to be like a tornado in your brain and your thought process, and your day is going to be chaotic, your night's going to be chaotic, you're not going to be able to sleep. You're thinking about it. You're going to bed and you're going to be restless and you're going to wake up and it's all going to be there the next day. Just
Exactly.
fix what you can fix today.
And what was yeah,
And
what was that other saying? I don't know who said it, but they said something along the lines of, "If you have a problem with me, call me. If you don't have my number to call me, then you're not somebody important enough to have a problem with me." So,
I've never heard
you know,
that statement, but I really like that statement
you know,
because
it's true. It's like
excuse me.
honestly, you could be somebody who literally cured cancer. Okay,
Mm,
you could be like, "Hey guys, I cured cancer. Here is the cure. Come get it. It's literally free." And somebody is going to say you're a terrible person. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah.
can't win. We live on a planet where anybody who tried to change the world in a real positive, huge way got assassinated, right? It's like Martin Luther King, see ya, JFK,
Mhm.
see ya, Christ, see ya. It's like everybody who's like supposed should be loved by everybody is not loved by everybody. You know what I mean? So like not everybody, like you're always going to find somebody who has some dirt to say about somebody you think is amazing.
Mhm.
So there's a book called The Four Agreements. It's an incredible book by, I think it's Miguel Ruiz. And I think one of the agreements was just like don't, was it's like, can't remember. It was like just essentially don't talk about people.
Mhm.
Like don't spread essentially misinformation about people. Like don't slander people, because what happens is if you tell me that this person is actually not a nice person, then when I meet them, I instantly don't like them, even though they've
Mhm.
never done anything bad to me. Y
Right. That
like, you shouldn't
happens.
say bad things about people to somebody
Mhm.
who never met them, because what you're doing is you're saying, "I'm already gonna make you hate this person because I'm not a fan of them." So,
Right. And that is so true. I'm literally in a situation, not me necessarily in a situation, but I know of a lot of different situations, and that's for everybody that's going through life right now. I can tell you is probably going through that exact scenario. Not me personally, but it's like if one person is mad, right? And you have a group of 20 people, right? And
mhm.
that one person's is mad about say this other group of people, right? And because this one person is mad for whatever reason, all these other 20 people want to be mad and they didn't even do nothing to them. Like I totally get what you're talking about. Be
Yeah,
yourself. Think for yourself. Answer for yourself. Everything is for yourself. You do not have to fit the mold. You do not have to be mad. Well, Ryan, I'm mad today because you're mad at those 5 people, so I'm mad too. And I
yeah.
don't even know why. But
Yeah,
because
well,
you're
there's no
mad, I'm
point. I mean,
mad.
I
And
understand having loyalty for a friend and being like, "Hey, like, what did they do?" And they're like, "Well, they stole my car." It's like, "Okay, well, I understand that's a bad thing, and I can at least be like, that's actionable." But for the most part, people just don't like other people because
mm,
potentially sometimes just jealousy. And
yeah, exactly.
I don't wanna hear anybody's negative thoughts about somebody before I meet that person, because I might have a really good talk with that person, and I might get
Mhm.
something from them that's actually good for me. And then I gotta
Right.
suddenly, like, spend the conversation, like, half my brain listening to them and the other half deciding whether or not I like them for
Right. And
whatever reason.
it shouldn't be that way, and it is a lot of times exactly that way in the world we live in. That's why there's so much, and I hate to say this, but not really, but a lot of mental health issues is because of, right, those types
Yep,
of situations, and not being able to think for yourself or have your own emotion or decipher if you like this person authentically or not. And it's
yep,
with it doesn't have to be with groups.
it's
It's
true.
with just everyday individuals. You know what I mean? The core of it starts with your own healing. It starts with the inner understanding of who you are and what you're hurting from, where the trauma is at, and not masking it, not covering it up, but actually doing the work,
Yep.
whether it's doing a shadow book, which you did mention to me, and Christina, I love her so much. She actually really loves doing like the shadow book. She's done her work and
Or
she's helped me
like
in my
shadow work.
journey. Yeah, doing the shadow work. It's important. You know what I mean?
It's
And
not
that's
easy though,
something,
'cause
no,
yeah,
I'm
like
gonna
shadow
work
work's
on
hard.
it myself. I'm gonna work on that myself. I have journaled and I've done all those things. You don't have to have something that says shadow book. You can get a napkin and write on it, or you can get a blank book, like
Yeah.
a blank book and write in that. And that's your work, right?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just think
essentially,
that
shadow work is like basically it's shining a light on the darkest parts of yourself that are always there. Like if you're constantly, say, getting fired from jobs, if you're constantly finding yourself on the losing side of, you know, making financial smart decisions, or if your relationships keep failing and you keep saying the same thing about why they failed, you
Mhm,
know, if the similar patterns keep happening, you can either blame everyone else and say, well, these three people are proof that there's three people who are the same out there, or you can say, well, what's the connective between these people? Well, it's me.
mhm.
So I have to do some work and find out what is it about me that's producing this result. And that's not just
Right.
relationships. That's relationships. Well, I guess you could say it's relationships. Relationships with money, relationships with people, relationships with work.
Yeah.
It could be relationship with your family. You know, if a big portion of your family doesn't really like you,
Mhm.
it's not that you have a bad family. It's that you're probably a bit of a prick. And it's like I think like
Yeah.
shadow work is one of those things where you go, okay, let's go deep and let's find out
Yeah.
what's tripping me up. Like,
Mhm.
do I have a low self-confidence? And why do I have low self-confidence? Like, did I
Right.
place it there? Did somebody else place that low self-confidence there? Do I have a trauma bond that I
Mhm.
haven't healed yet? Because people can easily get into a relationship with their pain, turn that
Mhm.
pain into an identity, which I think we're
Yeah.
seeing a lot in the world right now.
Yeah.
People are taking
Ab
their pain, they're externalizing it, they're turning it into an identity, and then they're saying, "Well, this is who I am. I'm this pain. I'm this lost
Mhm.
person who doesn't fit in anywhere,
Right. And
and
it cr
I'm gonna scream about it."
right.
And
And it
they
creates
have to
like
do some shadow work.
separation.
Yeah.
Like it creates separation anxiety, because of, right, that
Yep.
initial bond, right? Because you're not fully doing the work that you need to beforehand. And that's with any relationship, you know what I mean? It's friendships. A lot of times you see groups of friends and it's like, oh, we can't have three people or we can't have four people because there's something there that doesn't fit right or doesn't work right, and then that creates chaos. And
Mhm.
it's like, why? It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Or like, why? It doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, we're all people. Every body is meant, like, we're humans. We're not meant to be alone. We're
No,
meant to have,
in fact, we're terrible. Like, yeah, we love being on our own terms,
yeah.
but not necessarily forced into being on our own. Like I've had times in my life where I was forced into being alone, like, not only because, you know, a big relationship had gone down at the time, but the way I pulled back from the world, the person I became didn't want anybody in. Like, I didn't wanna go back home to have celebrations with my family at one point in my life.
Mhm.
I was like, I didn't want any of that happiness, like, "Oh, it's Christmas." I was like, "I'm miserable and I don't want to be near anybody who's happy."
Mhm.
And when you start to pull back that far and you feel that loneliness, you are like you realize how much loneliness has to be one of the worst illnesses in the world. Like true loneliness, right? Being by yourself is cool, right? But
Mm.
being truly alone,
Right.
I that's tough, really.
Yeah, that's really tough. I felt that a lot, and I see a lot of that today from people, you know what I mean, just feeling alone and just not
Yep.
knowing how to get up and move past it. You know what I mean? Because that's where you have to put that work in. That's where you have to set certain boundaries and all of that stuff wrapped up in one. You know what I mean? I did want to go over, because we're getting to the top of the hour, but I did want to go over one of the poems that is in your book, Ryan.
Sure, sure, yeah.
I mentioned it the other day. and I forgot the name of it, but I know
Is
it's
it
the
the
one
one
that
where
has
we
the
talked about before you
yeah we
mentioned? It's
yeah
called
we
Lucky
talked about
Helmet,
it.
the one
Yes,
with the
the
bullet?
Lucky Helmet. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that whole poem, and I love the story behind it. If you could, enlighten our audience a little bit about that.
Sure, sure. So that poem was about my grandfather, who's no longer with us, and he fought in the Second World War, and as I was growing up, I would ask him, "Granddad, did you ever kill anybody?" Because I was young, and young kids are curious, and they don't really understand 100% what they're asking. So he never answered that. He was a very loving person. He wouldn't let you hurt, a spider. Like literally, I think at one point he almost divorced my grandma because he had a spider in the room, and he said, "Leave it, don't touch it." And one day she just vacuumed it up, and that created a very big fight between them, apparently. But
Oh
so
no.
he was very after the war. He was very pro life. He was like, "Don't take any life at all," right? So,
Mhm,
but I kept asking him until I stopped asking him, and I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna ask anymore." I got old enough where it just made
mhm.
sense to stop asking. Then he passed away, and we went to his funeral, and this guy came up, and he was like, as old as time itself, and he said, "Let me tell you about why they say you give your life when you fight in the war." And he said, "I'm gonna tell you a story about Floyd," which is my grandpa. And he said, they spent 3 days, trying to take over this, airstrip against the Germans, and they finally did. After 3 days, they took over the airstrip, but they were all exhausted, and they all passed out. And it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and my granddad, sorry, he, heard some feet walking in, and then he jumped on the chain gun, and he mowed down like 13 SS, uh, you know, um, soldiers. So those are the crazy Nazi soldiers, right? And he saved his whole platoon. So at that moment, I got my answer, which was yes, he did in fact kill people, but he did because he saved people, and one of the people he saved was there saying thank you to him, right?
Mhm.
And that poem that I wrote was specifically about this lucky helmet that he had, because he had a helmet that had a bullet hole that went straight through here to the back. And it was like, had it have been over by like a fraction of a centimeter, it would have just ended our entire bloodline, right? So I wouldn't even
Mhm.
be here right now. So I wrote, decided to write a poem from a point of view as almost a thank you to him, and to say, like, I didn't realize that before I was even born, somebody was actually fighting for me so that I had a chance to be born. And that's the whole premise of that poem.
Absolutely love it. I love it. I seen it on the TikTok, on your TikTok platform, and when I seen it and I read it, I was just like, oh, that's so beautiful. So I do want to get your book. Where could um, people find you if they wanted to get in contact with you to ask you about your book or to communicate with you? How can people find you?
Okay. Thank you. This is the shameless plug. You can get my book on Amazon. You can get it like anywhere, I guess, on where Amazon goes. So amazon.com, .ca, everywhere. You can get it in a print book. You can get it in ebook, and you can either go to my site directly, which is thetroubledmonk.com. You can get it at some chapters here, but I'd say mostly Amazon's the way to go. Something I
Mhm.
definitely also want to shine a light on was one of my things about writing. One of my favorite things in the world to do is to teach people how to write and publish their own books. I've helped
Oh
multiple
yeah.
people do it, and uh, we've had nothing but like success. And to see these people's lives change because they wanted to write a book, and then they got a chance to write the book, and then they got a chance to publish their book and sell it and have that experience has been really amazing for me. So today actually is the official pre-launch of a course that I'm putting out. So December 15th is the official launch day. It's called 7 Days to Self-Publishing. And I do have a pre-launch deal going on. So it's regular 97 it's going to be, but it's on for 47 right now. So if you go to, once again, troubledmonk.com, you can purchase it there. And what that does is we're going to invite you into our private Discord group dedicated to these writers, also the private Facebook group. And we're trying to cultivate a community of like-minded creative minds, a safe space so people can just talk about the journey. And also the 7 days to self-publishing is everything you need, no matter where you're at in the stage of writing. So if you're just starting to write your first book, there's information there for you. If you've already written a book, but you need to know what the steps are between the 3 types of publishing. So there's, traditional publishing, there's hybrid publishing, which I'm totally against. And then there's self-publishing. Plus there's marketing tips in there. There's talking about, distribution, creating a cover, creating an audiobook, creating an ebook, everything you could possibly need, at least what I can think of anyway, that you would need to publish a book. So hopefully if you're somebody who's thinking about having a very gentle experience with a program and you wanted it at a really good price, I see a lot of other ones going for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I priced this one at such a point where, it's less than like 7 Starbucks coffees. So if you get it,
Right.
I bet you'll publish in 2025.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because I do honestly believe that writing is so important.
Yeah.
It's therapy in itself. It really reaches a lot of people. You know what I mean? It truly, truly does. And just kind of bringing it back to focus, being authentic. There's so many different authors that we have already had on the network that absolutely are amazing authors and have created very beautiful pieces. So yeah, I mean, for people to gain that knowledge and to know, kind of how to navigate through if they're not knowing, you know, what step to take next or how to get it started or just being afraid to even, take the jump. You know what I mean? So it's important to have these different types of things on a platform where they can see and learn. Ryan, it has
Yeah.
been such an amazing show tonight. I really, really thank you so much for coming on and letting us get to know a little bit more about you. At some point, I would love for you to come back on the show and talk more because I really feel like there's more that we can communicate about and maybe an update for the Ember and see kind of where that's going. You guys, if you have not followed Ryan on any platform, please go look at him, search him up. Look at his book, The Ember. I'm going to get it myself. I know that's going to be a lot of really beautiful stuff in there that I want to read more on myself. I want to say thank you so much for coming to the Out of My Zone podcast. Love you
Thanks
guys
for having
so
me.
much. Love you guys so much. I am Mary.Mothertrucker. You can find me on all platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those different places you can find me. And remember, it is okay to not be okay sometimes. Do not stay there and smile because you are worth it. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All that I need, never could have. Yeah, I'm not going back.